All right. Let's just get into the main story, because today we're going to be talking about the larger kind of resistance and protest movements that are happening all around the world. And to me, of course, the most major one, the most significant one, is happening in Paris. It's significant because, yet again, probably a lot of people are surprised, like, holy cow, it's been 17 weeks now, 17 weeks, and there's still major protests happening all over France, all over their major cities. There's tear gas all across local areas. Yes. And people need to understand these are very violent protests where police officers many times are seen predominantly going after peaceful protesters while allowing violent factions of the protest to continue to do whatever they want. Since those protests have begun, 5 people have lost their hands, 22 people have lost an eyeball, and 100 people have been injured very seriously, with some even dying because of accidents during these larger movements. And as you know, we've been there on the ground seeing all of it unfold. There was even a person the last time I was there that was very close to me that literally lost his hands. There's photos showing people with no limbs because of these crazy, violent, repressive protests by, of course, Emmanuel Macron and the French government against the yellow vest protesters that want him out. But of course, you're not going to be hearing about that in the mainstream media. I haven't seen any talk about it on CNN, on Fox News, on MSNBC. No one is talking about it. And the people who I even follow as independent media don't even know it's still going on. 17 weeks, and by the view, by how many people are there, it might have dwindled a little bit, but the numbers are still huge. But this brings me to my next point. Venezuela, something that we hear about obsessively right now, not only on social media, but of course the big media companies. And the latest big story from Venezuela is that it was hit by a major blackout. They're having security and electricity issues where, according to some sources, 22 states out of 23 in Venezuela have reached blackouts and no longer receive electricity. Now, of course, Maduro is the current Venezuelan president, is blaming this on, of course, international sabotage by the Central Powers who are trying to take him down, when in reality it's most likely due to mismaintenance and, of course, overheating of many important power plants in Venezuela that, of course, have not been kept up and have been very, very poorly managed, just like the rest of Venezuela with Maduro. And again, the Maduro government keeps making more mistakes, as we hear of yet another journalist who was detained, investigated for treason, for espionage, and then, of course, later released. But now we're hearing, even according to some generals, this is according to retired Brigadier General Anthony Tata, he's saying that U.S. military intervention in Venezuela may begin very soon. Now, this is a very stunning, important article, because the possibilities of this happening are very, very real. Now, of course, they're doing this on the pretext of humanitarian intervention, and they're using these blackouts as a way to say, hey, we need to come in there and fix what's happening in there. And there are videos of demonstrators protesting Maduro, supporting the self-proclaimed Juan Guaido interim president. There are demonstrations showing support for him, but also at the same time, what you're not seeing mainly on the bigger mainstream media is that there's also demonstrations of police officers and pro-Maduro regime protesters supporting the current administration of that government. But it still doesn't stop our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, former CIA guy, by the way, who just tweeted, no food, no medicine, now no power, next, no Maduro. Again, absolute incredulous post by the former CIA head, calling for not only regime change, but just totally ousting someone who is supported by factions of the people that are living there based on supposed humanitarian needs. And I call hooey. That's bull crap, as of course we have the crisis in Yemen, which of course is in large part because of the U.S. coalition bombing and destroying that area. We also have another humanitarian situation unfolding in, of course, Gaza and, of course, Palestine. And we're supposed to believe these people who, again, most of them are the same people who lied about Iran, Vietnam, Chile, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iraq again, Libya, Syria, that this time, for sure, it's a good cause to get into Venezuela when, of course, Venezuela also has a huge oil reserve and huge interest geopolitically to Russia and China, our bigger petrodollar enemies. Yes, we're doing this for humanitarian purposes, which is absolute hooey. The situation on the ground is far more complex. There's supporters for the interim president. There's supporters for Maduro. But ultimately, you are not getting the truth. You're getting straight up disinformation, propaganda about this larger issue that, again, doesn't have a good side. There's no clear side to take on this. Both sides are bad. Maduro, bad. U.S. intervention, bad. People need to realize the facts of this case matter more than the bipartisanness of trying to cause more war, more conflict, more human suffering, which will happen if the United States gets involved. Will they? This general thinks that it may happen. I see this going the opposite way because the support and the level of push for this, I believe, is declining. And I think Venezuela will keep its current president that it has for some time now, who is only emboldened and it is becoming more powerful, mainly because of the opposition against him. That's what I see it. Jason, how do you see it?
Well, I got to tell you, Luke, I think there may be a reason to be suspicious with this blackout. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily the United States. Obviously, they are in opposition when they're saying, hey, we're going to starve your people out. Hey, no big deal.
Another thing, Jason, people don't realize, a lot of the food and medicine that doesn't come in there because of U.S. sanctions. And another part of massive mismanagement and the horrible, inept socialist government of Maduro. Both are true. Both need to realize that. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. See, it's not a one-sided coin here. It's not like Maduro's good. But Luke, I don't know if you saw Max Blumenthal actually going to a supermarket there, and he talked about, look, there's real inflation here. That's a real thing. But I can get soap. I can get this. I can get that. There are barrios. There are areas that are terrible. They're filthy. They're not where you want to be. And it's pretty easy for our media to go and focus on those areas and then draw so much fervor from uneducated citizens that we need to go save the Venezuelans, Luke. It's time. We're going to liberate them. We're going to liberate them just like we liberated those Africans and those Iraqis and those Afghanis. We're the liberators. Woohoo!
Imagine if North Korea went down to Los Angeles, to California, down to Skid Row and started filming. Look at the current situation that Americans have to live under. Send it back to North Korea being like, look, we have to save and liberate these people. The people in North Korea, without knowing the difference, would probably be like, yeah, we should do that. And obviously, Skid Row, what was it, typhoid that just came back there, or typhus that just came back there?
Skid Row is more along the lines, I think, of Los Angeles. What you're referring to is Northern California. You're talking about I'm not
talking about the poop hole that is known as San Francisco. I'm talking about Skid Row in Los Angeles.
Is the typhus back in L.A.?
It's in Los Angeles. Yes, it's in Los Angeles.
Well,
absolutely incredible story. But again, you can frame things, and with editorializing, you could sell any story. They're trying to sell you a story of war, and that's a wrong story that won't fix this problem, and it will only make the situation worse.